You're listening to NFRN The Drive, your place for NFRN, NASCAR, and motorsport news. Hello again, everybody. Colin Denton here with another edition of NFRN The Drive. We've got a lot of racing on hand today with a triple header for the first time since Pikes Peak. The Truck Series at Oswego and the Amateur and Elite Cup Series at Bump Draft and Superspeedway. Before we get into NFRN stuff, we take a look at our headlines for the day. We start off with Comcast no longer actively discussing purchasing an equity stake in NASCAR per sources. That comes from Adam Stern of Sports Business Journal. And that's raising the chance that the France family will remain in full control of the sport for the foreseeable future. Obviously, there had been rumors a few months ago that the France family might be pursuing a sale of at least part of the sport. And that becomes a little less likely now that you have a big contender saying that they are no longer seeking out a purchase of at least a portion of the sport. Comcast recently did take over Sky TV from the UK for $40 billion. Roush Fenway Racing announced that crew chief Scott Graves will rejoin the team and be Ryan Newman's crew chief in 2019. Graves was originally with Roush Fenway in 2006, worked as an engineer and progressed to a crew chief, eventually leading Chris Buescher to a 2015 Xfinity championship. He's been with Joe Gibbs Racing for the past 3 seasons, led Daniel Suarez to a 2016 Xfinity championship, and progressed with him to Cup. He recently left the team, and Dave Rogers is going to be the interim crew chief for Suarez for these final few races of the 2018 season. And finally, ISC has named Julie Geis, Managing Director of Business Operations for ISC Design and Development, as President of ISM Raceway. Geis will assume oversight of promotion and operation of the track starting next month, and that is when we will have the playoff race at the track. She worked alongside the ISM team for design and project management of the track's recent $178 million modernization project that included new grandstands and upgrades to the infield. And with that being said, we take a look at what our last race weekend looked like when we were at Van Zandt with the Amateur and Elite Cup Series. The race at Van Zandt in the Elite Cup Series was quite a wild one. John Gilbert starts on the pole from this one in his first career start. Little bit of a squeeze right here between the 76, 24, and 90. Sends a couple of cars spinning and a little bit of contact with the 84. A little bit of trouble on pit lane. The 76 would get into Cody Hagan. And then Tyler Markell bumps into John Arndt and runs into the back of Craig Martin. Not the kind of start you want to a race. And then we see John Arndt and Reese Butcher make contact, squeeze Julio Caesar up into the wall. The 05 and the 0 car go for a spin. And then a little bit later, it looks like a little bit of retaliation there between the 0 and the 90. Sends the 90 Butcher for a spin along with Cody Hagan and Dominic Carranza. And then trouble between teammates. Looked like Reigns was trying to get a side draft and then ends up hooking his teammate into the wall. Jack Porkins collected, as well as the other JR, who slams right into the 77. But it was a move from Rampage, the Season 1 champion. Goes from the outside line to the inside in the middle of a turn. Helps him build the momentum down the front straightaway. Gets him around David Davidson and then really holds the lead for the entirety of this final stretch. John Gilbert has nothing to give on him, and Rampage takes the victory at Van Zandt. We see the finishing order from this one. Gilbert comes home second in his debut race in this series. Ramco Motorsports, great day for them as they have 2 in the top 3. Jack Porkins able to come back from that accident and end up finishing 5th. And with Rampage's victory, he is now the winningest driver in the Elite Cup Series at the moment, currently holding 3 victories across both seasons. We have several drivers that do have 2 as well. Johnny Gardner has 1 in both seasons, 19 others holding down just 1 victory. The Amateur Cup Series race for Van Zandt was a little bit more tame. However, there was a little bit of excitement. Starting with this spin early on in the race, Chris Harley goes for a minor spin, but contact with Colin Lindsay would play a big factor later on. We keep going on through the race. Green flag pit stops take place. A little bit of contact on pit lane perhaps because Billy Thompson is slow on the racetrack and he holds up a ton of cars as the lead pack flies through. Clint McComb and Colin Lindsay break away from the rest of the field. But Lindsay, with that possible damage to his hood, he was unable to make a move on McComb and for those final laps just trailed behind him, looking for a draft and any way to get around him. Would not happen. McComb takes the victory in that one, and he's able to spoil the field as Lindsay continues to look for a spot in the playoffs. As for the rest of the field, there was a heavyweight battle between the guys that are up high in the standings and looking to get the open spots in the playoffs. At the moment, there's 2 open spots on points, and that could increase as we enter these final 5 races. Before we head off to our race at Oswego, we do want to introduce you to some new drivers on the NFRN Truck Series circuit as a part-timer. These guys will all be joining the rest of the season. We start off with James Kinghart. He's driving the number 04 Chevrolet for the Oswego race. Richard Raffi will be in the number 06, and Dylan Farrell in the number 37. Jason Hars will pilot the number 50 Chevrolet. Evelyn Yee, our 3rd female competitor in the NFRN, will be in the number 57. Ryan Reed will drive the number 58 Ford for this race. Paul Jackson will be in the number 59 Ford for Oswego. Louis Usher in the number 66 Chevrolet. Brian McDonald starts off his career in the number 74. Andrew Ross in the number 75. Keyshawn Richardson in the number 78. And in the number 80 Ford F-150, Emmett Juckham, one of our original drivers of the NFRN Elite Cup Series back in Season 1. He is returning back to the league, and he'll be driving in tonight's race, trying to make an attempt. Our final 2 new drivers, Carson Clevenger in the number 82 Chevrolet, and Aiden Valdez in the number 84. Meanwhile, on the right side of the screen, you can see drivers that are making number changes for this race. There are several of them. I believe this is the first time we've had to have some number changes happen. All part of the point standings and the driver's preference on what truck they want to drive. If you do not see a driver's name here, that means they are driving the truck that they had in the last race. Now, because we have so much racing going on tonight in the NFR, and we don't want to spend too much time on the drive tonight, but we do want to look back at the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. Now we have exited the round of 12, we're entering the round of 8, and obviously I made some predictions that weren't quite as accurate as I would have hoped, but let's take a look at them now, and maybe I'll make some predictions on what we can see going forward. So here's my original playoff grid. Now, obviously, we've cut the field down from 16 to 8. Let's take a look at the drivers that have stayed in and those who haven't. So guys in blue are still in, guys in red are out. Obviously, I really underestimated Eric Almirola and Kurt Busch, just a tad off on him in getting him to the round of 8. Brad Keselowski and Kyle Larson, the big disappointments for me, and they were unable to make it. So, who do I have going forward from here? Well, let's go to the next round. I picked the championship for. I think the big 3 are still going to have the speed to be able to keep ahead of all of the guys down here further in the field. They have enough playoff points, and I think that barring a major issue in 2 races, they can stay up there and compete for a championship once again. Chase Elliott, though, I'm going to make him my 4th pick. He looks like he has the momentum. He has 2 victories in these last 3 races. He just seems like a guy that's on a mission. I think he's going to be a championship 4 contender now. However, I am sticking by my guns when I say that Kevin Harvick is going to be the one that's winning this championship. I still think he has the stats at Homestead to get the job done, and Stewart-Haas Racing still incredibly fast. They put all 4 guys into the final 8. That is still impressive in itself. Just a matter of they've all got to cut down a little bit. And obviously, I think that only one SHR car is going to make it to the Championship 4, but I think Harvick will still be champion. So it is just about time for our races at Oswego and Bump Draft, and 3 more opportunities for drivers to lock themselves into the playoffs of the respective series. A few reminders before we head out. 24-hour race, as always, still open. Go ahead and click on the link in the description to go to the video, which explains everything you need to know about the 24-hour race and how you can get signed up, either by forming a team or putting yourself on the standby list to be auto-assigned to a team later on. And also, make sure to join our NFRN Discord in alliance with ASCA, and you can get all of the information you need to know quickly. That is one of our main sources of communication, so make sure you hop on over there, create an account if you don't have one, and join the community. So a little bit of everything tonight, a short dirt track and a long super speedway. This is going to be a fun night of racing. We hope you will enjoy it. And until next time, my name is Colin Denton. Good night and good riddance.
Louder!